Welcome to session 5. This is part A, and I want to start off. We're still on chapter 3 in the book. This is the second part on chapter 3. I want to start off just going back a little bit about elasticities. I want you to remember this when you're thinking about elasticities. You think which goes on top, numerator, the quantity, change in quantity or change in price goes on top. Um, One way to think about these things is remember that an elasticity, it's as if we're predicting quantities, okay, not price. We're predicting quantities. And when we say elastic, I like to think of elastic as being a synonym for flexible, okay? So when we say that we're very flexible on quantity. Okay, so this is like when I told you that example when the product was gasoline at the University Mall, Sunoco. Okay, so I'm very flexible on that. If that gas station raises its price, I'm going to change my quantity a lot. I'm going to go to some other gas station. So for that case, um, when we do the demand curve, let's put price on the vertical axis. Remember, I said if it's $3 a gallon, I usually get 10 gallons a week, and the slope is very shallow. So, um, um, yeah. Okay, sorry. So the slope is very shallow. So if that gas station raises its price to say $4 a gallon, I'm going to go from and everything else is constant. Remember that when we talk about demand curves, everything else, our taste, the prices of other goods, everything else stays the same. So the price of Sunoco gas at the University Mall goes up a little bit. We're assuming that all the other gas stations keep their same prices. So if it's gone up to $4, the other gas stations are still keeping a lower price. I'm going to go to the other gas stations. The amount of Sunoco University Mall gas is going to go from 10 to 0. Okay. So on this, think of it, I'm very flexible for this. And then this one, we would say that my demand is very elastic. Okay. When we're predicting my quantity, I'm flexible on the quantity. We say I'm elastic. And when um, elasticity is high, that means the quantity will change a lot when we change the price. This is the case. So my demand is highly elastic in this case. Um, Not only that, when we say um, when the slope is perfectly flat, say the slope looked like this, then we say it's perfectly elastic. And in this case, we say that the E, the elasticity, now it's usually negative, but I'm going to say the absolute value of it. When it's perfectly elastic, we say that the absolute value of the elasticity is infinity. Okay. Okay. Now, the opposite case is where we have the demand curve is almost vertical. So suppose now instead we're talking about all gas. Let me erase this. So elastic now. Let's talk about a case where all gas, and I don't have very good substitutes for all gas. So if all gasoline goes up in price, say from 3 or to goes up to even $10 a gallon, it's $9 a gallon. What happens? Well, at least in the short term, there isn't much I can do. I'm probably going to spend almost as much in gasoline. Maybe I'll cut back to 9 or 8 $8 gallons a week, but my demand curve is going to look something like that. Okay. In this case, I'm not very flexible in the quantity. So we'll say that I'm not very elastic. So we'll say low elasticity. We say that the absolute value of E is small. It's near zero. Okay. If the elasticity, now I know the book says we never have perfectly vertical demand curves, at least over the entire graph. Let's say we've come close to that. If we have almost perfectly vertical demand curves, we say it's perfect inelasticity. Elasticity. And in this case, we say that the absolute value of E actually equals zero. So when we have perfectly vertical demand curves, we say that the elasticity is zero. Okay, so I know it's hard to remember, it's a lot to memorize, but just think of elasticity as just a synonym for flexibility. And remember, we're trying to predict quantity. So if all of a sudden we say inelastic, that means I'm inflexible on quantity. I've got to keep quantity the same. This would be the case of the perfectly vertical demand curves. Okay. Hopefully that helps me remember. Hopefully it'll help you. Okay. Okay. An excellent question for an exam is to talk about order these goods according to how many substitutes they have and talk about what the elasticity of the good is. So let's go back, and I've already talked about the case of all gasoline. Okay, here, not many substitutes, so we say a low elasticity. Okay. Now, meanwhile, if I have a very particular good, such as gasoline from University Mall, Sunoco, I have lots of substitutes. So we say that I have high elasticity. Okay. Next, so that would be a good test question, I would say. So consider two goods. One is all gasoline. The other is just gasoline from the University Mall Sunoco. Which has the higher elasticity of demand? And the answer would be the one with more substitutes, the second one. Okay, that would be a good test question. Okay. We also looked at the case in the book where it said, what about when we considered one good, which is all SUVs, another good, which was American SUVs, and then third case was just Chevrolet SUVs. Which one has the highest elasticity? Okay. And so what you'd say is you'd order these with the ones that have most substitutes. So this one, most substitutes, and all SUVs would be the fewest substitutes, and then American SUVs would be an intermediate case. Okay. suppose I asked which one would have the highest elasticity of demand, and the answer is the Chevy SUVs, one of the most substitutes, would have the highest elasticity demand. Next would be American SUVs. Third would be all SUVs. That would be a very good test question. Rank these in order of what you think the elasticity of demand would be. Okay. By the way, so I talked about usually the elasticity of demand is negative. We economists forget to put the negative sign on it, and usually when we say elasticity of demand, we mean the absolute value of the elasticity of demand. If you forget the negative sign on the exam, don't worry, you will still get it right. All economists forget the negative sign, so I will not count off if you do it too, okay? So often, and the book talks about this when we talk about if elasticity is high, we mean the absolute value of the elasticity is high, okay? A third question, okay? Third example of an exam question could be this, okay? Consider these three goods. Okay, one is all fruits. Another possible good is all citrus fruits. And third possibility is lemons. Okay. Which one would have the highest elasticity of demand? What I would want you to do is say lemons has lots of substitutes, or at least some good substitutes. I don't know if you're like me. I don't care. Lemon or lime, they taste about the same to me. If I want a slice with my iced tea, I don't care. Lime or lemon they're no different to me. So a good substitute for lemon is lime. Okay, there's a very good substitute for lemon. Now, meanwhile, what about citrus fruits? Okay, so if the price of all citrus fruits go up, is there a substitute? Okay, so now lemons and lime are in the same category. They're part of citrus fruits. So if the price of lemon has gone up, I'm saying the price of lime has gone up too. And then all of a sudden, what would be a substitute for citrus fruits? Something like an apple. Maybe that's okay if you're thinking about dessert or something. Oh, okay, if I can't have a lemon or if I can't have an orange, apple is a pretty good. It's not quite as good a substitute as lime is to lemon, so it's the intermediate case. Meanwhile, all fruits. If all fruits have gone up in price, there's not really much substitute for that. It's really bread or a vegetable a good substitute for fruit. Well, not the same as the extent that lemon is for a lime. So here, we would say this has the fewest substitutes. Okay, here's the most. So lemons would have the highest elasticity or absolute value, and then all fruits would have the lowest elasticity or the absolute value of elasticity, and all citrus fruits would be an intermediate case. Okay, so if you had that exam, I'd want you to be able to order those three goods in terms of their elasticities, most to least. Okay. Okay, let's see, I've now gone 14 minutes. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to end right there. I'm going to talk about revenue in the next portion, looking at a demand curve, where on the demand curve revenue is maximized, how we compute revenue. So that is in part B. See you there.